Welcome to Coffee and Coaching with Caryn. Grab your favorite mug, sit back, and enjoy. Now here's your host, Caryn Fitzgerald.
Welcome to Coffee and Coaching with Caryn. I'm your host, Caryn Fitzgerald, and today I am excited to welcome back Lisa Crilley Mallis, owner of SystemSavvy Consulting, and she is a time strategy visionary who believes that you can live a life where every day is productive, rewarding, and fun. And today we're going to talk about accomplishing your number one most important task every day. So welcome back, Lisa.
Thanks, Caryn. It's so awesome to be back. Thank you for having me again.
I had fun the first time, so if it's fun, I just do it again.
That's exactly my philosophy.
So we're talking about your number one most important task being accomplished every day. And before we jump in there, is there a time frame on that? I mean, is it by 9 a.m., noon, 2 p.m.?
No, it's just before the day ends. So just accomplishing whatever it is, the most important task you have before you go to bed.
Okay, so for those of you who are listening to this and it's almost bedtime and you look at your list and you say, I didn't accomplish my number one thing today, Lisa just said, as long as you accomplish it before the end of the day, you can tick it off. So we're going to jump in. When you say you're accomplishing your most important task, are you differentiating between important, urgent? How does that, how do you just pick that one task?
I absolutely am differentiating between the two. Usually, we accomplish whatever's most urgent on our plate. I would venture to guess everyone listening to your podcast right now is a professional and they're good at what they do. And so the urgent gets done. It's the important stuff that tends to get pushed aside. Even though you have the best laid plans to accomplish what's important, they get waylaid by what's urgent. And so today what I want to talk about is how do you make sure that you accomplish the most important task on your list, not just everything that's urgent.
Okay, well, first of all, let's define important.
Yes.
How do you choose what is the most important task to be completed on a given day?
So when I'm talking about urgent and important, really what I'm doing is looking back to Covey's 4 quadrants. And I'm looking in specifically in quadrants 1 and 2. So quadrant 1 is all about urgent and important, where quadrant 2 is about not urgent and important. So normally your urgent tasks are important. They're sitting in quadrant 1. You're doing those anyway. It's those non-urgent tasks that are still important. Things like self-care, or you have a big project that you want to accomplish and it's starting to chip away at those action steps on that big project before it becomes the day before it's due.
We should teach that in college.
I know. I laugh because I always say those activities that you have sitting in quadrant 2, given enough time, they become quadrant 1 urgent activities. So the goal is to spend as much of your day as possible living in quadrant 2, that non-urgent but important segment, versus the urgent. So if you can continue to chip away at some of the non-urgent things, then you'll be able to start spending your time important, because you're not racing against the clock with time. So projects, doing some proactive things for your business, marketing, that's an important task. And some of us tend to go in that Zoom-eek mode where we market like crazy because we haven't done it in a while. And then we hope we get a whole bunch of new clients. And then we get some clients, then we stop marketing. And then all of a sudden we're like, oh no, I'm almost out of clients. I need to market again. And so it becomes urgent and then forgotten, and then urgent and then forgotten, where continually doing something every day stays important, and it's a nice steady stream of clients and income.
Well, while we're talking about that, let's talk about a little bit about the importance of having a schedule and managing your time in terms of being able to create space for these tasks to be done. So
Yes.
how important is it, and what are some ways to create that schedule?
So when we think about working on what's most important, the first thing to do is what we've been talking about, is picking what it is that's most important. So that's like your awareness phase. Then your second thing is let's schedule it. So you're exactly right. Let's pick a time in the calendar to schedule that activity. Schedule it in like it's an appointment. And I will write it in my calendar as an appointment with myself. But I hold that true because we don't necessarily cancel appointments, but we will cancel or ignore things on a to-do list. So it's important to block off time in your calendar for the things that are important. And it could be an hour, it could be 20 minutes, but sometime every day so that you can keep moving forward instead of putting out fires.
You're making me smile here. I mean, you always do. Talking with you is always a pleasure. I remember years ago when my daughter was in elementary school and the parents could come and have lunch with the kids. And my daughter would say to me, I would take her to school and she'd go, Mom, would you have lunch with me today? And I would say, well, not today, Sammy. I have to put it on my calendar. And after a couple of weeks of that, she stopped asking and I couldn't figure out why. It struck me one morning. I was like, wow, she didn't ask me today. Well, maybe she doesn't want me to come. I walked into my office, opened up my calendar, and for the next month, my daughter had taken a colored pencil and scheduled herself in 3 or 4 different times, come to school, lunch with Sammy. And she wrote it down at her lunchtime, and I went, wow, that's kind of cool. And you know what? I went to every one of those lunches.
Well, because it was an appointment in your calendar. She's a priority, and the time was set aside for her.
Exactly.
So it was a perfect match.
So what are some strategies to make sure you accomplish a task once you decide this is the priority?
Okay, so the first strategy is to go ahead and schedule it, just like we're talking. Put it in there as an appointment, put it into the calendar. And then you have to, and when you're putting it in there, you want to start to think about when are you scheduling it. So at the top of the show, you laughed about, if you're just about to go to sleep right now and you haven't done it yet, for some listeners, nighttime might be the best time. Maybe they're working a full-time job and the evening is when they're working on their passion business. And so that's when they're scheduling that most important thing. For others, the philosophy is if I don't get it done first thing in the day, it's never going to happen. And so maybe then it's in the morning that it is scheduled, but it has to be scheduled in there somewhere.
Okay, well, we're going to schedule in here a little break.
Nice segue.
And then we're going to come back and we're going to talk more about scheduling the tasks and the secret to making sure they get done. So we'll be right back with more Coffee and Coaching with Caryn right after this.
Stay tuned. Coffee and Coaching with Caryn will be back after these messages.
Need a little more happiness in your life? Here you go. The Happiness Recipe Podcast to the rescue. Listen each week as June Klein and Sandy Weaver Carmen share wit, wisdom, and wonderful food with their guests. Guaranteed to add happiness to your life. happinessrecipe.net.
Did you know that an estimated 50,000 people a year die from flu-related complications? The only way to prevent the flu is to get a flu shot. Everyone over 6 months of age should be vaccinated against the flu. Visit www.shotsforholly.org for information and links about the various forms of the flu shot. Get a shot and help us beat the beast known as the flu, one shot at a time.
Are you looking for quality entertainment and activities for the entire family? Then come on down to the Plaza Theater Company and Plaza Academy Dance Studio, located in Cleburne, Texas. The Plaza Theater Company is an award-winning community theater that presents 10 productions a year, performing every single weekend. If you have a child that enjoys acting, dancing, or singing, then you can enroll them in the Plaza Academy Dance Studio. For more information, visit plaza-theater.com or call 817-202-0600.
Welcome to Coffee and Coaching with Caryn. Grab your favorite mug, sit back, and enjoy. Now here's your host, Caryn Fitzgerald.
We are back with Coffee and Coaching with Caryn. I am your host, Caryn Fitzgerald, and today my guest is the owner of SystemSavvy Consulting and the time strategy visionary, Lisa Crilley Mallis. And we're talking about accomplishing your number one most important task every day. So Lisa, before the break, we were talking about scheduling the task. And some people, they're night owls, so it's going to get done in the evening. Other people, first thing in the morning. So when you're scheduling these tasks, first of all, how long do you schedule the task for?
I like to use the rule of 1.5 or the rule of 3. So in an ideal world where you're looking at a blank calendar and you're scheduling time to complete your task, if you think it's going to take you an hour, go ahead and schedule in 90 minutes.
Okay, so you have extra time. So you have a little bit of extra.
Right, because you're in that, what is that, Murphy's Law, if anything can go wrong, it will, type of a scenario. Because again, we're trying to prioritize important over urgent. So let's give ourselves enough time to really to accomplish what we set down to accomplish. Now, I do say sometimes you want to multiply by 3. Meaning if you think it's going to take you 10 minutes, go ahead and give yourself 30. And that's based on whether or not you've done the task before. So if it's something you've done before, just multiply by 1.5. But if it's something you've never done, multiply by 3. Because you don't know what you don't know. But gosh darn it, as soon as you start that unfamiliar task, you're going to find out what you don't know.
Absolutely.
So yeah,
Every
every time. One of my clients says, and if it's anything tech related, go ahead and multiply by 10.
Oh my goodness.
So whatever works for you. But usually I say multiply by 1.5 or multiply by 3. Just because if you overestimate, what's the worst thing that happens, Caryn? You have extra time. That's not, what a bummer.
Well, let me ask you then, for those that work different, maybe a full-time job and then they're working their passion around that, and they're creating their schedule. And then there are those that are fortunate that we get to work our passion all day and all night, anytime. Do you feel it's a good thing to schedule things such as reading time and gym time, lunch time, things like that? Are those tasks?
Yes, absolutely, because those are all quadrant 2 activities. So, and I know in my calendar right now there is a lunch time blocked every day all week because I will forget to take lunch if it's not sitting in my calendar. And the same with going to the gym. I'll think, 10 more minutes doing this or 10 more minutes doing that. And then it's like, oops, no time to go to the gym today. My first client is in, a half hour. And so the things that are important to me, I schedule in. Things that I know I'll push aside. So if reading is one of those activities that you think, I wish I would do more professional and personal development. I wish I would read more. And you put that in your calendar. That's going to take it off that to-do list or off that, I wish I would feeling in your brain. And it's going to it's in your calendar and you'll see it and it holds so much more weight.
One of my fun tips for personal development reading, that snooze button we all have?
Mm-hmm.
I set mine, and I'll hit it once. I'll admit, I'll own up to that. But the second time I hit it is my reading time. So instead of going back to sleep, I turn on the light, I sit up, grab my book, and by the time the snooze button goes off again, the alarm goes off again 30 minutes later, I've had 30 minutes of personal development time, and I haven't even gotten out of bed yet.
Oh, I love that tip. Love that tip.
It's, the snooze button doesn't win.
Mm-hmm.
I still get my snooze, but it's a great, I feel so accomplished by the time I get out of bed. I've already done that. So
right.
I'm glad I could share some time strategy with you.
Good. Thank you. I love it.
So do you have any secrets to making sure the task is accomplished?
Yes. And because for many people listening right now, they've heard schedule it into your calendar.
Right.
Some people have even heard 1.5 or multiply by 3 or any idea of overestimate how long you think it's going to take so that you set yourself up for success. The secret that I share with my clients is to think about this as choice management, not time management. So when the time comes in your calendar so it's 9:37 a.m. and that's when you've slotted in time to do your most important task, you think of it as a choice. I'm either going to do what I've said I'm going to do or I'm not, and write it down. Because it's a lot tougher to write down on a piece of paper, I'm not doing my most important task today because I don't feel like it. Like that's hard to do.
That's painful just hearing that. That's painful.
Well, but it brings it back into your awareness. So it's not one of those things where all of a sudden you scheduled a task for 9 a.m. and it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon and you think, oh, where did the day go? Because now you're looking at your calendar and you're saying, wait a minute, it's 9:37. This is the magic time I've chosen. I'm either going to do it or I'm going to reschedule it or I'm not going to do it or whatever it is, write it down. So if you do it, write down, I did it. And these were the things that helped me do it, or I didn't do it, and this is why.
So it's a celebration of the win.
It is. It's a celebration of the win, or it's gathering data for what didn't work out as well as you would hope so that you can move it forward. But it really eliminates that whole basing your day and doing your actions based on your mood. Because it's really hard to say, I don't feel like it, so I am not going to do blah, blah, blah.
You know, I have to commend the people that are tied to a 9-to-5 job, because their mood in the morning may or may not be joyful, but they have to go to work.
Right.
Those of us that are fortunate enough to be able to be full-time in our passion, you know, we still have that moment when we get up in the morning and we go, oh, do I really feel like doing this? The blessing and the challenge is the fact that we don't have to. But then again, if we don't do anything about following our passion and working in our passion, and we take the day off, a lot of things fall apart.
Right.
So it's a blessing and a challenge, but wow, I really do have to commend the people that are tied to a 9-to-5 and that do that every day and just get it done.
I agree. I agree completely. And even those who are listening now who are tied to that 9-to-5, this idea of picking your most important thing during the day, your workday work, is key, as well as what's the most important personal thing for you that you can pick to do in the evening, whether it's time with family or personal development or professional development or whatever that piece is. So it's work strategies and personal strategies.
And Lisa, when you're saying that, people who may be tied to a 9-to-5 that are looking to transition out, that are listening to this, what Lisa is sharing is extremely powerful in that these are tools and techniques and strategies that you can choose to implement and create that segue. So whatever your plan is, whether it's to be out of your job in 12 months, 24 months, 5 years, whatever, you can put this in place. And then when you transition out of a 9-to-5, you already have the habit formed.
Right. And you and I have talked before, and it may have been off air, about how depressing it is to look back and think, oh my goodness, it's been 5 years. And I had a 12-month plan.
Right. It can be. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to take a very quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about using these strategies and technology in the real world. So we'll be right back with Coffee and Coaching with Caryn.
Stay tuned. Coffee and Coaching with Caryn will be back after these messages.
Are you feeling exasperated and helpless about your family member's addiction? Have you tried everything you can think of to make them stop? Addiction therapist and award-winning author Candace Platter can help. Her book, Loving an Addict, Loving Yourself, the Top 10 Survival Tips for Loving Someone with an Addiction, will give you a dramatically fresh approach to get you off the roller coaster chaos of addiction. Available now in paperback, Kindle, and audiobook on Amazon or at CandacePlatter.com.
Hey Lily, do you have lines, wrinkles, or low energy?
Yeah, I do.
Well, change it all now. Look and feel younger from the comfort of your own home today.
How?
Visit 10yearsyoungernow.com for your free personal consultation.
Thanks, guys.
You're welcome.
Dreaming of turning your book into an audiobook? Make it happen. More and more people are discovering the joy of audiobooks. They should be discovering you. Our professional personal service gives you just the audio product you've dreamed of. Check us out, voiceworkondemand.com.
Welcome to Coffee and Coaching with Caryn. Grab your favorite mug, sit back, and enjoy. Now here's your host, Caryn Fitzgerald.
We are back with Coffee and Coaching with Caryn, and I am your host, Caryn Fitzgerald. And today my guest is Lisa Crilley Mallis, and she is the owner of SystemSavvy Consulting and a time strategy visionary. And we're talking about accomplishing your number one most important task every day. Okay, so Lisa, you've given us strategy, you've given us technique, and you've given us some game plan. This is the real world. Life happens.
Yep.
So what do you do if, okay, now you've got the plan in motion, you've got your task, your most important task written down, and you've got it scheduled, and then something happens during that scheduled time and it's really urgent. What do you do?
You reschedule, because life does happen and urgent things do come up. Yesterday I was working with a client, and when we hung up the phone, she was going to go down to her office, her home office, which is down on the lower level of her home, and she was going to cull through some files and create some organization. And so the next week when we talked, I said, "All right, how'd it go?" And she said, "Oh, I didn't do it." And I said, "Why not?" She's like, "Well, right, because when I started to walk downstairs, my daughter's school called and she was sick and I had to take her to the emergency room." I mean, that's life. We have a plan. She's ready to implement that plan in 5 minutes when we hang up from our call, and bam, everything gets thrown out. And so it's a matter of then taking a moment. For her, it was when she was in the emergency room, and rescheduling that appointment with yourself, just like you would do if you were missing a doctor's appointment. You have a doctor's appointment, there's a need, you have to cancel for whatever reason, you reschedule to another time. And so sometimes you can do that rescheduling on the fly. You're getting ready to work, someone walks into your office, you make a choice. Oh, it's my boss. He takes precedence over what I was about to do. And so you quick make a notation on where you're going to slide that, whether you're doing it on paper or on Google Calendar, just slide it over to another spot. Or in this case, there was no time for Megan to actually say, "Well, hang on a minute, I'll come pick her up in a second." But while she was waiting in the emergency room, she just prioritized and rescheduled her day, but rescheduled that activity.
So shifting the schedule, so that has to do with being flexible, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so you and I both know that there are people listening that even when they're super focused, they get distracted with shiny objects. Happens to all of us.
Yes.
What are some ideas or suggestions or strategies for dealing with that distractive behavior?
So let's pretend for a second that the distraction occurs while you're in the middle of working on your most important task. Okay. And so I say, let's pretend as I'm talking to you, looking out my window, because you're my most important task right now. And, I see deer and things walking across the backyard. So it's like, oh, okay, this is perfect timing. But let's say something like that happens, because this is the real world again. I use a parking lot technique, and I encourage my clients to do the same. Just jot on a piece of paper whatever it was that just own it. I was distracted by deer. Jot it down on a piece of paper, and then force yourself back or refocus back on what was your most important task. So sometimes the items on the parking lot, really, you have to do nothing with them afterwards. Like deers on my parking lot, I really don't have to do anything about that. But, maybe it was the fact that someone popped their head in my office and said, "Do you have a minute?" And I was able to say, "No, not right now, but I'll get back to you." Well, I need to put their name on my parking lot. Otherwise, I'll forget to get back to them. Or maybe, you didn't disable your email pop-up and you see an email come in, which sparks a whole new train of thought that's important and exciting, because of course it's exciting. Jot down whatever that thought was so you don't lose it. But that'll help create the structure to stay focused on your one task instead of flitting away to something else, to something else, to something else.
You know, it's really funny that you talk about the excitement of getting an email.
Yeah, I know. It's always more exciting than what you're doing. I don't care what it is. The potential of, I always think of it as the potential or the possibility. It's always so exciting.
It is. And just recently, though, I heard someone say that if you wake up in the morning and the first thing you do is reach for a drink, you may have a problem with alcohol. Or you reach for a cigarette, you may have a problem with cigarettes or, nicotine addiction, things like that. And he said, well, the first thing you do before you even get out of bed is reach for your phone and start scrolling through social media and checking your email, you may have a problem. And I hadn't looked at it that way until I heard this. And I realized that all the excitement, you're right, the excitement of a new email and the potential and the possibilities that are coming through with it, it's thrilling and exhilarating and I want to go look there. But once I stay focused and shut down the email or the different things and stay focused on the task, it becomes easier to repeat that behavior day after day and create that new habit and let the distractions go by the wayside.
Right. And when you were talking about reading first thing in the morning, my first thought was, oh, wouldn't that be a great way for clients who constantly check their phone first thing or turn on the news first thing? What a great replacement task that would be. Professional development reading versus whatever else to help ease yourself into the day on a positive note that you're choosing, a proactive positive note.
I will tell you the mindset that I have when my feet hit the floor is different on days that I read and days that I don't. Very different. So absolutely, I encourage people to do that. So do you have any thoughts on how to help my listeners implement these strategies daily until this becomes a habit? Because it is a day-to-day, step-by-step thing. So what are your suggestions? What's some guidance you have or some ideas and tools?
You're absolutely right. It is a day-to-day, step-by-step. And with any new habit that you try to create, and here the habit we're trying to create is making sure we carve out time in our day to accomplish what's most important, whatever that may be, wherever that may be. And there'll be good days and there'll be days that aren't as great. However, over a period of time, your good days are going to start to outnumber the, oh, I need to fix those types of days. And so a lot of people need structure, especially when they're starting something new. And so I have a 30-day to success, an awe-inspired journal. And this creates structure for people as they're trying to create a new habit, because you get an email and you have action steps and a place to write down what's going well and what you want to adjust for next time and a place to capture celebrations every day for 30 days. So it's just that reminder, that visual reminder every day of I'm picking my most important thing and I'm going to attack it today with deliberate focus. And you do that every day. So the 30-day awe-inspired journal, and it's for your listeners because you're so awesome. I will throw in a bonus 30-minute strategy session with me to help bust through obstacles, because maybe the two challenges we just talked about aren't yours. Maybe you have something different. And so here's an opportunity to pick my brain for 30 minutes and I'll share those with you. So the place to be able to invest in the Awe-Inspired Journal is at AWE, A-W-E, challenge.com. And then in the notes section, you want to say, I love Caryn, C-A-R-Y-N. If you don't spell it right, you don't get the bonus. and then we'll make sure that you get that extra 30-minute strategy session.
Oh, Lisa, that is incredibly generous of you. So I will thank you on behalf of my listeners and encourage my listeners to take Lisa up on this offer immediately. And I would love to hear feedback and different experiences that people that connect with Lisa have. So please feel free to share those as well. And again, as always, our time is too short. Lisa, is there anything you'd like to share that we didn't get a chance to touch on?
It's what you just said, actually. Take action. If you don't take action today, it's just been a lovely half hour listening to Caryn and I chat. And your life will not change at all. So take action on something. Get a hold of me if you have an additional question. Get a hold of Caryn if you have additional questions. But do something. Schedule your most important thing. Right now, while you're listening to this, if you're listening live, grab a piece of paper. If you're listening to the replay, go ahead and hit the pause button and pick it, put it into your calendar, and then move forward. But do something.
Beautiful. And what is the best way for people to connect with you directly?
Through my website, which is SystemSavvyConsulting.com. And Savvy does have 2 V's.
Beautiful. And you know what's coming next. This is Coffee and Coaching. We've done the coaching. Let's talk coffee. So coffee, tea, cocoa, what's the flavor of the week this week?
It's funny you should phrase it that way because it is the flavor of the week this week. Because last time we chatted, I said I'm a tea drinker all the way. It has been freeze your face off cold out here in Ohio recently. And so I have switched over to hot chocolate for this week. And then I anticipate switching back to tea at some point, but hot chocolate is just that thing when there's a 1.5 feet of snow outside and you just can't take it anymore.
Oh,
so hot chocolate.
you had me at freeze your face off. I'm thinking I would not be outside. Well, Lisa, thank you again for joining me, ladies and gentlemen. I have been talking with Lisa Crilley Mallis, and as always, Lisa, it is a pleasure.
Thank you.
And I want to thank all the listeners for listening to Coffee and Coaching with Caryn. If you enjoy the show, please share it with a friend, and we will see you next time.
You've been listening to Coffee and Coaching with Caryn.
Thank you so much for joining us. Tune in next time for more Coffee and Coaching with Caryn.
Until then, visit us at coffeeandcoachingradio.com.
Caryn Fitzgerald is an author, speaker, business strategist, and leadership coach. Connect with her at coffeeandcoachingradio.com.